Hey everybody, welcome back to another video of Artifact Archives, and today we are talking about the big one, Teddy Roosevelt. So, with his stuff, we have a few original items in the exhibit for the 250th, and they're pretty exciting. Almost all of these items were loaned to us by the Wyoming State Museum, so big thanks to them for letting us have these items for the exhibit. We really appreciate it. But, I mean, let's get right into it. So, in this case, kind of from far away from me towards me, first we have these two ribbons right here. So these would have been worn and were worn by people in Cheyenne that were either in Roosevelt's welcoming committee or just people that were going to events to greet President Roosevelt or to just watch him as he went through town, whether it was through a parade or through a dinner event or whatever it was that he was doing when he was here that you would have been able to get to him. People would have worn those on their chest. They're just kind of little chest ribbons, so they would have been right about there. Then behind it, we have an original dinner menu, and this was from the dinner that was held for him in 1910 for his visit. And it's dated August 28th, 1910, and that was the second day of his visit because both times he came to Cheyenne in 1903 and 1910, he was here spread over 3 days. In 1903, I think it was about a combined 52 or 56 hours, and in 1910, it was about a combined 48 hours, but it was spread over 3 days. Anyway, for 1910, at the end of the second day, he went to a dinner that was held at the Warren Pull Creek Ranch, and it was kind of an exclusive event. It was coordinated by the Frontier Days Committee that was basically hosting him for his entire 1910 visit. And what happened was, throughout his visits, Teddy Roosevelt had a knack for riding horseback everywhere. So like in 1903, he actually stopped in Laramie and rode on horseback all the way to Cheyenne. So it was like a combined 62 miles for the path that he took. And he even went over the summit, through, all the prairies, through the areas of like Vidavoo today. He went through all of that just to get to Cheyenne, because that's what he wanted to do. That was a personal request of his. But then throughout his visits in 1903 and 1910, he had a couple more horseback rides. One of them in 1903 was to another one of Senator F.E. Warren's ranches, again, for a dinner event. Then in 1910, he did it again, but it was to another ranch that Warren owned. And this dinner menu was actually on the tables at that exclusive dinner. And there was only about, in 1910, 30 or 35 people that were invited to this dinner, including Roosevelt himself. So these were lined on the tables. The menu is everything that they had. It was 5-course, mainly gamey dinner, because Roosevelt liked game. And an important thing about this dinner was it was bragged about and said with pride in Wyoming that all of the game for this dinner was hunted from all 4 corners of the state. And so it came from all over the place within the state of Wyoming. And they wanted to purposefully do that so it showcased the entire state to Roosevelt. And so, when you get the close-up of the menu, you can see all the different kinds of animals and fishes and whatnot that were included in this dinner. And the cool thing about it is, when it came to these dinner menus, I found in a newspaper when I was doing research that they purposefully wanted the menu on leather with everything on it burned in, inscribed in, what have you, because they wanted the menu to actually look as if it had been ripped off of a cowboy's chaps. That's how kind of original and rugged they wanted it to look. So that's what they were going for. I'd say they were pretty successful, but I mean, I'll let you be the judge of that. But the other cool thing about these menus, and I checked the back already, it's not one of these, but during the dinner in 1910, one of the people in Roosevelt's party was a guy named Homer Davenport, and he was a famous New York cartoonist. And he went with Roosevelt. He was in Roosevelt's party during that whole visit, and he went with him everywhere, including this dinner. But we have newspaper reports that Davenport was taking these menus off the tables, and then drawing first nice and then kind of obscene cartoon caricatures of different people, of Roosevelt and of the dinner and scenes he was seeing. And then he would throw them down to Roosevelt at the other end of the table to have him sign them. So, and Roosevelt got a really big kick out of that. But again, the back of this one's blank, but what are you gonna do? It's still an original menu, pretty cool. Then the last item within the case that we have, you'll see these right here. These are a pair of boot hooks. And for those of you that don't know, the boot hooks are literally, you would just hold them and you would put the hooks inside the little loops at the top of the boot, and then you'd use them to pull them onto your foot. So that's what these are. But the special thing about these is that these were actually once handled by Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt got these personally as a gift for somebody, and in Cheyenne, he gave these to Mrs. Louis Swan Van Tassel. Now, Roosevelt was very close friends with the Van Tassel family throughout kind of his life, and especially through his 2 visits to Cheyenne. So in 1903, I mean, Van Tassel, for example, especially with R.S. Van Tassel, was his main friend in the family. But R.S. Van Tassel in 1903 provided Roosevelt with some of his horses that he used to get over from Laramie to Cheyenne. Teddy Roosevelt in 1903 had lunch at the Van Tassel Ranch to be with his friend. And Van Tassel also rode with Theodore Roosevelt to both visits through 1903 and 1910 to one of Warren's ranches. So when he went to Warren's ranch in 1903, Van Tassel rode with him all the way there on horseback. And in 1910, he did it again. And in 1910, R.S. Van Tassel was about 70 years old, and he was still willing to go that whole route. And I think in 1910, the ride that they took from Cheyenne to the Warren ranch that they went to, the Warren Pole Creek Ranch, it was a combined 35 miles. So the ranch is actually about 15 miles north of Cheyenne, but the route they took was kind of a roundabout one, so it was about 35 miles, so pretty crazy. But yeah, so Theodore Roosevelt gave these boot hooks to a member of the Van Tassel family while he was here, which is really cool. And again, we're really grateful to have these on display for the exhibit. And then the last item is an item from our collection, and I have it right here that I thought you guys might like. But this is the Sunday State Leader on August 28th, 1910, and this is an original. And it is the headline of when Teddy Roosevelt came in 1910. But yeah, it talks about his arrival here. The article on the left side is "Big Western Welcome is given to Theodore by cheering thousands." And then the article on the right is talking about the Cheyenne Frontier Days results that day. And that, my friends, is all of our Teddy Roosevelt items. So we do have some, and you'll be seeing plenty more of all the different presidents that came through Cheyenne in future videos. And I'll see you next time.